When it comes to animation studios, we tend to look back at some of the great animes that have come with it. Toei Animations is one of those exceptional studios to ever come out of Japan, revealing the world's best adaptations that we know today. Nowadays, studios try to catch up with new technology to aid their visuals, but for many classics, that does not need to be done. Works like Slam Dunk, One Piece, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Sailor Moon, and Dragon Ball for a portion of time became a pillar for Toei's company to gain the massive success that it is. Now that Toei Animations became one of the most glorious companies that it is, it's always looking to find new mangas to adapt in order to be more credible than ever. The Toei Animation Studio has been animating One Piece for over 20 years and continues to elevate its visuals with every episode, making fight scenes and emotional scenes look so pleasing for the eye to watch. Not only is that an amazing fact, but the literal Ghibli creator Hayao Miyazaki worked as an animator before the company blew up in the Golden Age of Animes, which is around the 1990s. Which at the age of 22 in 1963, he had taken on that role in the company, animating one of the most iconic films, Puss in the Boots, in 1969. See, this company has been around for about 7+ decades and continues to grow. But in order to make this video, the deepest dive is to go to the beginning where it all started. In a small room where one boy had a dream. See, this is where things get interesting. When researching creators of directors and mangaka alike, it's hard to get any sort of information since many people tend to separate themselves from their work in Japan. But after checking multiple sources, I was able to track down the person who created this billion-dollar company. Let's get into the super detailed dive in the history of the company. Born on October 5th, 1898, Kenzo Masaoka came into this world. Born in Osaka, Masaoka moved to Tokyo with an aim to become an icon in the art space that was ramping on, but later returned to Kyoto to pursue films he worked on. He demonstrated a passion for films and for art, something that was rare to see in the late 1800s. In 1927, Masaoka established his own office to conduct his own work, called Nambe Productions, in Shimogamo, Kyoto, and produced a children's film called Shell's Palace. Then in 1829, just 2 years after becoming an employee under Uzumasa Studio, and started to engage in animation productions for the first time. See, Kenzo started to have a drive for animating and wanted to open up his own production set, which he did around 1933. He attempted throughout years and years of dedication to improve the quality of his art he was putting out. However, things took a turn for the worse due to financial costs. Kenzo was forced to let go of his production as he could not pay for the costs that came with it. With everything gone wrong, Kenzo was ready to hang his hat up and call it quits. He had left his employed job and started his own production but failed drastically. But Kenzo didn't give up. It wasn't until 10 years later in 1943 he had his first big breakout in Japan with the work The Spider and the Tulip, which is about a ladybug being chased by a spider. Then the world had stopped and World War II had begun. That shut down everything in Japan. But after the war, he met his co-founder, Yamato, and established Nihon Dogan Corp., which is now known as Toei Animations. See, during this time, a lot of big million-dollar businesses in anime ended up merging with other small businesses to reduce competition. So these large brands decided to buy other little brands, and obviously they had the money to do it, and Kenzo's production was one of those companies. And unfortunately, but fortunately, his small little business got bought out by one of the big companies. From 1951 to 1956, Toei Animation became the highest performing company in Japan's history of film. Toei Animation distinguished itself very quickly by turning to television, something that lots of people didn't do. See, back then, in order to watch a film or television, you would have to go to a theater or where television was provided. And in 1963, the company launched a production called Ken, the Wolf Boy, which was the first Japanese animated series broadcasted on television. However, it wasn't until 1969 with the release of GGG no Kintaro that Toei Animations established itself as one of the major players in television. This period was also marked by collaborations with influential creators, notably Osamu Tezuka, often nicknamed the father of manga. Now looking back at the early history of this company before they took on bigger adaptations, the company was slowly building its portfolio in order to take on more popular Shonen Jump manga or shoujo manga, and that was certainly around the corner in 1980s to the 1990s. If you guys are enjoying this video so far, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're closing in on 1,000 subs, so it would mean the world to me if you would do so. See, when Toei Animation had started picking up little mangas to adapt, this is where things took a turn for the better. And when I mean better, I am grossly underestimating that statement. And what I mean by taking a turn for the better, I mean the adaptation of the 1986 Akira Toriyama's Dragon Ball, which set Toei Animation above from every single studio in Japan. I don't know if you guys can really truly understand this, but taking on Dragon Ball skyrocketed the company from making hundreds of thousands per year to millions per month. See, this anime had done wonders for Toei Animation, and that was just a start. With Dragon Ball being produced, it allowed the Toei company to dominate the global markets and their competitors. So, now let's get into the next segment of this video, which is known as the Golden Age for Toei Animations. And of course, we gotta talk about Dragon Ball and how it came to be, combining Akira Toriyama's abilities to write and the production and animation teams that Toei was able to offer. See, the manga actually gained traction when it was serialized by Shonen Jump in 1984, and just 2 years after, Toei began animating and debuting this anime on Fuji TV, which aired its first episode February 26, 1986. This anime had started to air weekly during prime times, where most people were hooked on their TV and came home from school, and the adults came home from work. And this wasn't just another anime people would scroll by when switching channels. No. This anime literally drew in millions in Japan alone, and many more millions across the world when they had licensed it to different companies. This anime had gotten so big to the point where little children, all the way to their parents and even grandparents, were hooked by the compelling plot of Son Goku and Bulma trying to retrieve these Dragon Balls to grant one wish by this immortal dragon. The 25-minute episodic format, combined with its emotional storytelling, created over 153 episodes in the span of 3 years. At this time, Toei had already partnered with Shonen Jump magazine and had been adapting other mangas and found some success with Dr. Slump, which is obviously another manga made by the late Akira Toriyama. And with Akira Toriyama and Toei Studios partnering before with Dr. Slump, this had obviously made it a natural decision for Akira to go with Toei Animations to adapt Dragon Ball. What made this partnership work so flawlessly was how Toei was able to work with Akira Toriyama to preserve the work done in the manga in order to translate it so fluently on the big TV. While minor changes were made to accommodate both sides, the studio still remained committed to retaining the humor and charm that came with the manga. Under the guidance of directors like Minoru Ozuyaki and later Daisuke Nishio, Toei infused Dragon Ball with vibrant visuals and dynamic action sequences. The studio had already translated perfectly to Toriyama's simple yet fluid motions, creating these memorable fighting scenes, something that Dragon Ball is well known for all across the world. However, just like every great thing, there has to be some issues along the way. Dragon Ball wasn't always perfect. First off, the production issue was a problem. The anime often got caught up with the manga so regularly now that the episodes were being pumped out weekly, especially when Dragon Ball only had 2 years worth of chapters, so you can see how this is a problem. Obviously, one episode doesn't cover one single chapter, it covers multiple, so you can see how this easily catches up to the latest chapter. And plus, there was no such thing as a 12-episode season back in the 80s. It was just one large weekly adaptation. This caused pressure on pacing when producing these weekly episodes, so Toei had to end up creating filler episodes and arcs to give Toriyama time to develop his story even more. Plus, it gave fans more content. Obviously, Toei Animation cannot stop midway through a weekly episodic airing just because they already caught up with Toriyama, so they decided to push with fillers. While fillers can be well received, most are definitely not. Now moving on, Toei's attention to detail in depicting environments and using vibrant colors makes viewers immersed in the world of Dragon Ball. Toei had realized that this series was just more than animations and wanted to branch out into merchandise. By partnering with Bandai, the studio turned the series into a merchandising powerhouse. Action figures, trading cards, and video games flooded the market, creating a feedback loop of popularity that boosted both the anime and the merchandise. Now, we're gonna talk about the everlasting impact that this anime had left on Toei Animation. With the money that came with Dragon Ball's success, it allowed the company to invest in adapting other mangas, such as Sailor Moon and One Piece, furthering its global footprint they left. The series' runaway success made Dragon Ball a financial juggernaut. Merchandising revenue, earnings from the ads being run while Dragon Ball was off air, and the international licensing deals brought in substantial profits, solidifying Toei's position as a leader in the anime industry. Just what would Toei be without grabbing Dragon Ball right out the gate? Although the 1986 anime initially aired primarily in Japan, its later international distribution laid the groundwork for Dragon Ball Z's global dominance. Toei's ability to market the franchise worldwide turned Dragon Ball into a cultural phenomenon, with millions of fans across Asia, Europe, and eventually North America. Dragon Ball's involvement with Toei Animation becomes a cornerstone of its legacy. Toei was able to elevate the Dragon Ball manga too, which is very rare nowadays, and made it into an extremely profitable series, racking in tens of millions every year. See, by the mid-1980s, Toei was already a powerhouse in the industry, but by acquiring Dragon Ball, it brought it to another level. Dragon Ball has left an everlasting impression in the anime community and people all across the world. Next up, we're going to be going a couple years forward where Toei Animations had taken on a shoujo anime, which has become a pillar in its genre, and this anime I'm talking about is of course Sailor Moon. Under the direction and lead of Junichi Sato, the anime debuted on national TV Asahi on March 7th, 1992. By the time the show had stopped airing, Sailor Moon had grossed the company billions of dollars. Even when the anime had stopped airing, they kept on re-uploading the videos on television and kept on racking in more and more views and increased their earnings on ads. Toei Animation assembled a talented team to bring the series to life. Character designer Kazuko refined Takeuchi's artwork to ensure it was translated seamlessly to animation, balancing the elegance with accessibility. The series was originally directed by Mr. Sato, whose gentle yet dynamic storytelling set a tone for Sailor Moon's earlier episodes, and later by Ikuhara, who added his signature flair for dramatic tension and visual symbolism. And this talented team cannot go undiscovered. Notable directors like Sato and Ikuhara brought distinct styles to the show. Sato emphasized emotional storytelling, while Ikuhara infused surreal artistic touches that elevated the narrative's depth. Also, Toei is casting talented voice actors like Katano Mitsushi added immense charm to the characters. Their performances brought emotional resonance to the story. And lastly, visionaries like Kazuko ensured the Sailor Guardians were uniquely designed and visually compelling, with intricate costumes and detailed expressions. See, Toei Animation had actually set up Sailor Moon for success, just like how they did with Dragon Ball. The Toei Animations' ambitions didn't stop in Japan though. By the mid 1990s, Sailor Moon had become a global phenomenon, just like Dragon Ball, airing in over 40 different countries. The studio's expertise in localizing content played a crucial role in its international success. From dubbing and editing to marketing campaigns, Toei tailored the series to resonate with a diverse audience. And it's not just for girls, something that the shoujo genre is kinda aimed towards. And for some reason, when I think about retro anime, Dragon Ball and Sailor Moon are the first two to pop up. Sailor Moon's color and background choices were out of this world and so unique when it was animated. It kinda had a sense like you were right there with the characters, fighting by their side and being with them. That retro aspect really adds more tone and value to an anime, I personally feel like, that animes these days obviously don't have because they're not retro. Nevertheless, the one thing that made Toei anime super big was the international attention they were able to get. Besides that, North America was a huge spot for anime, just like how anime became big in the 1980s in Japan. Well, in the 1990s in North America, it was about to be the next gold mine. Sailor Moon ended up licensing its first two seasons to DIC Entertainment, which Toei Animation worked closely with in order to provide a clean transition for Western viewers. Sailor Moon's big success allowed this series to have many more spin-offs, such as Sailor Moon R, Sailor Moon S, Sailor Moon Super R, and Sailor Stars. And yeah, you kinda get the point how popular Sailor Moon was worldwide. Take that, Dragon Ball. The series aired its last episode on February 8th, 1997, and had totaled up about 3 films and 39 video games. Toei Animation blended hand-drawn animations with innovative techniques to create this visually appealing sequence. For Sailor Moon, they ensured the characters' design were vibrant and expressive, while incorporating intricate effects in transformation sequences and their magical attacks. You can see just how impactful Sailor Moon's adaptation was to millions around the world. The company's successful shoujo adaptation grabbed viewers who had never even heard about the genre anymore, and it sure did grab me. And that is because Shonen Jump was way more massive than shoujo was ever. Toei Animation meticulously approach to storytelling, animation, and marketing transformed Sailor Moon into a global phenomenon. Their ability to innovate while honoring the essence of the source material, combined with their expertise in creating visually stunning and emotional resonant content, ensured the series' enduring success. As this series is one of the most iconic works in Toei's history, Sailor Moon remains as a testament to the studio's vision and craftsmanship. Alright, that's it for the end of Sailor Moon, but now we have to talk about the giant in this industry that Toei Animation seemingly animated 1,000+ episodes for, along with a couple movies, the latest being the Red film. This anime is one of the most loved and hated series for different people, depending on who you ask, for many different reasons. But we cannot deny just how impactful One Piece was to every single anime that came after. Now, this isn't an in-depth analysis on One Piece. This is specifically going to talk about its role with Toei Animation, exactly what this video essay is about. See, Toei Animation had the pleasure of airing One Piece in October 1999, just 2 months shy before the 2000s. Only just 2 years prior, in 1997, the manga was published. These days, you actually don't see that quite often. Mangakas often write their manga nowadays and exceed 300 or 400 chapters, and then they begin to get animated. See, back then, they used to just pump out a few chapters and get picked up all of a sudden, but nowadays, it's way too hard. This show aired on Fuji TV, the exact same one that Dragon Ball had aired on, and the story followed a boy named Monkey D. Luffy, who is set out on finding Goldie Roger's One Piece. Since its premiere decades ago, the series has actually published over 1,100 episodes. But before any of those episodes were ever published, we have to go all the way back. See, despite the manga at that time being relatively short, only 100 chapters in or so, its unique blend of humor and adventure hooked the eyes of the directors of Toei, and they wanted to give Oda a chance. A chance for his anime to get adapted and his dreams to come true. But at the same time, the studio had taken on a monumental risk on animating One Piece, transforming its pirates into weekly animes for decades to come. But luckily, the risk paid off, earning them billions of dollars. In 1999, the studio had actually taken more of a simple art style compared to the rest of the animes they had adapted, featuring more simpler designs and somewhat different color palette in contrast to Dragon Ball, Slam Dunk, or even Sailor Moon. Although this did not hinder its quality one bit. The studio was committed to bettering the quality as the years progressed, from the East Blue arc all the way to the latest one. Toei's style has relatively changed a lot actually, to try to match Oda's new style of art, which you rarely see from studios trying their hardest to replicate the mangaka's new style. Toei has also brought One Piece to the big screen with numerous movies, each pushing the boundaries of storytelling and animation. The latest one, One Piece film Red, premiered in 2022 and marked a significant milestone. The movie explored the backstory of Shanks and introduced a new character, Yuta, who's showcasing stunning visuals and a memorable soundtrack. Toei's mastery of blending epic narratives with high-quality animations was a full-on display in the movie, making Red one of the franchise's most successful films. Moving on back to the episodes, there weren't actually always sunshine and rainbows. There also came challenges along the way that Toei had a bit of difficulty with. First off, there was a bit of a problem when it came to stretching the material of the chapters. Some canon episodes were slightly elongated by recapping intros or slower pacing. For example, the pacing during the Dressrosa arc received criticism for stretching single manga chapters across entire episodes. Which brings me to my next point. The consistency across decades. See, One Piece has been airing for more than 20 years, so they're obviously going to have issues with a consistent tone and quality. Next up we have is balancing projects. Of course, studios have to equally split their time and efforts into making different anime and pump out new episodes weekly, but back then, they used to work on dozens of series at a time. Nowadays, we have companies working on different animes during different seasons, like fall and winter, and only for a mere 12 episodes. Back then, it was so much more difficult to balance the anime's production. But nonetheless, Toei Animation had jumped back from these trials that they were facing, and just kept on pushing out quality anime for our viewers to watch all across the world. Arcs like the Wano Country arc marked a major leap forward in animation quality, incorporating bold new art style, dynamic camera angles, and fluid fight choreography. However, such improvements come with an increased production demand, pushing the team's skill and resources to their limit. Long-term fatigue has always been a problem for Toei producers, voice actors, and animators. Studios are pretty used to animating series for a couple of years until the last chapter, but for One Piece, it kinda seems never ending. Toei not only has to keep the anime engaging, but also has to prevent burnout among its staff. Because once they get burned out, the quality will drop immensely. And quite frankly, we've seen this all over the anime and manga community. Mangaka like Oda almost never sleep. They get a little bit amount, and that's due to the deadlines that are forced weekly to get a new chapter out. And I honestly cannot imagine weekly episode formats back then in the 1990s to the 2000s. No joke, they literally had 7 days to do line art, coloring, and animating. So I can imagine they're probably working on a tight schedule, something that I probably could never do, so I give great credibility to them. One advice I would hopefully give them is retaining veteran animators that have been in this industry for a while, so they can mentor new talent, and that can be the key of pushing a show's quality from good to amazing. Despite these challenges, Toei Animation's commitment to One Piece has never been wavered. Through preservation, innovation, and deep respect for the source material, which I believe is the most important part, the studio has turned obstacles into opportunities to grow and evolve alongside the series. It's a testament to Toei's resilience and dedication that One Piece remains a cornerstone of anime culture worldwide. Some credible things Toei has done to elevate this series was the music and sound design that the studio had done that made One Piece legendary. Toei had collaborated with Kohei Tanaka and Shiro Hamaguchi. The soundtrack made by those two had enhanced the series and was a right choice by the company to hire them. And I think the biggest takeaway is how throughout the decades, Toei has maintained a strong relationship with Oda, and there was never really no bad blood, at least what I can find online honestly. Collaborating closely ensured that Oda's vision was fulfilled. The mangaka has actively been involved in One Piece films, such as One Piece Strong World, where he contributed to the storyline and character designs. His participation indicates a collaborative relationship with Toei Animation, aiming to ensure that the films align with his vision. In a recent statement, Oda expressed his dedication to various adaptations of One Piece. He stated, "That's why I'm putting my all into everything, the manga, the anime, the films, and live action." One Piece by far has been probably the most successful. It might be debatable if it's more successful than Dragon Ball Z, but you guys can debate that down below and let me know your opinions. But then again, it doesn't really matter because both are really successful. And I'm super glad that One Piece is coming to an end. Now we can finally see if the debate is over, if One Piece truly is the greatest anime, and obviously it all depends on the ending. Alright, that was a lot to take in, but now we're going to debrief and talk about the logo's history, because boy, is that cat so iconic. A little bit of context, this cat actually has a name, and he's called Puro, the hero in Puss and the Boots, and was in a movie that Toei first created that was essentially one of their first big booms. This movie was released as the first work of the Toei Animation Festival on March 18, 1969, becoming a blockbuster in Japan in terms of both audience members and box office revenue. Now, this is directly from their official website, and it reads, "Based on the famous children's story of Charles Parasol, this work is an adventure fantasy. Pero, chased by a trio of killer cats, gave advice to a youngster named Pierre, who later had been kicked out of his house, trying to make him the husband of Princess Rosa. However, a devil named Lucifer forced the princess to marry him and took her to his castle. Pero and Pierre went to the devil's castle and squared off with Lucifer. This work is filled with high-quality humor, jokes, ideas, and passion of the staff, showcasing the possibilities of animation back in those days. This work was one of the masterpieces of Toei Doga, the predecessors obviously to Toei Animation, as well as being our commemorative work. Even now, 40 years after its release, Puro is widely recognized and loved by fans and employees as the logo of our company." And that's the words the Toei Animation Company had to say about Puro. I didn't even know until now that other companies had lore about their animal logos other than Mickey Mouse, but the more you know. This company's success has been unrivaled in the 70s, 80s, and now the 90s, being one of the oldest animating studios in the world. So, what are they up to now? Well, that's the next point in our discussion. The company is still to this day animating One Piece episodes weekly, which is obviously crazy, and taking breaks here and there, but the quality seems to continue to getting much better with every episode coming out. Now that they're on the Egghead arc and possibly wrapping that up, we should continue to see more progression and consistent content with quality. In terms of Dragon Ball, the series has been on and off with adaptations, but is finally pumping out new content with Dragon Ball Daima. As of recording this video, Dragon Ball Daima has just aired its 12th episode. Speaking of this is the first adaptation Toei Animation has done with Dragon Ball without Akira Toriyama. This is really sad and unfortunate news because Toei Animation and Akira Toriyama used to work really well with each other and worked very close. And what I mean by this is Akira Toriyama was in there day in and day out in the animation studios while creating chapters. He was literally talking to directors and producers on how he wanted things to be, something that mangaka rarely often do with animators. But nevertheless, I think Toei Animation is honoring Akira Toriyama's legacy by pumping out Dragon Ball Daima. With that being said, Dragon Ball has seen many adaptations. And that's what I mean by on and off. It's because Dragon Ball isn't just one series like One Piece. It has a bunch of different anime and movies along with it, making it complex at times. An example of this is when Toei Animation was animating Dragon Ball Super weekly, but came to an abrupt stop in order to produce Dragon Ball Broly, which in my opinion looked amazing. That fight with Vegeta and Broly was unparalleled. Not because of the fighting though, but everything that came with it, down to the line art, to the vibrant color choices they had to use, and just how powerful Toei was able to make a fighting scene. I remember when Dragon Ball Broly first came out, everybody was talking about the fight scenes because that's what Dragon Ball is kind of really known for at the end of the day, but Toei Animation just brought it to a different level. I mean, if we literally compare Broly to how we looked before and the quality of this animation in the movie, it's literally night and day. See, Broly represented Elite Four with a bold, hand-drawn look introduced by Nohiro Shintani. The character designs were simpler yet impressive, allowing for fluid motion and dynamic choreography. I would also like to mention the amazing camera movement done by Toei. It really is a hallmark of their work and how they are able to capture a scene. An example of this is the battle between Luffy and Katakuri. The features on a rotational tracking shot where the camera spins around the two fighters as they trade blows. This technique emphasizes their speed and makes the viewers feel like they're in the middle of the fight. Or another example is obviously Goku versus Beerus. The camera follows them through the fight almost seamlessly, picking up every blow. If you want to take it all the way to the past, we actually have to take a look at Galaxy Express 999 that aired in 1979, where in the climactic train battle, the camera moves alongside the train as it speeds through space. Wide tracking shots highlight the vastness of the cosmos, while close-ups on characters during moments of actions create a sense of personal stakes. Toei has many different strengths that certain people overlook when watching an anime. Some might not even pay attention to these small details ever, and sadly, I do that sometimes. Yes, it does take 30 minutes to watch an anime. That's if you just watch the intro and outro every time, which is scary if you do. But besides the point, animators, directors, voice actors, and others behind the scenes spend hours on making drafts, staying up late, and putting in extreme amount of details in order for an episode to be flawless, and we see that through the visuals that are detailed so much by Toei Animation. Now is a good time to talk about the studio's use of line art that they use to their advantage. Now we're gonna get a little more deeper into the art aspect of Toei Animation now that we covered more of the general parts. We'll have to draw back all the way to the Dragon Ball Super, the Broly movie obviously, because that movie was literally a piece of art. Nohiro Shintani's line art, combined with his ability to draw off of Toriyama's originality with these characters, created such a huge impact when it came to the movie. See, Shintani used more thicker lines when producing this movie, almost triple the thickness they usually use. And if you're into art, you know that bolder lines technically mean that things will come out more simpler. And that's because you can't add too much fine detail. But in this movie, it was kind of the opposite. Yes, it does make things more simpler, but that didn't hurt the movie at all, because at times, lines get lighter when we see Broly versus Gogeta, as it gets more jagged and erratic. To say the least, the line art in Dragon Ball Broly's movie was out of this world, and it was used pretty darn good. To give you more insight on Shintani, he is recognized all over Japan as a professional and does not go anywhere without being recognized as that. He first started off animating for One Piece as a character designer, but then got bumped up as a promotion and became the drawing director for Dragon Ball Super's Broly. See, he was a young animator born in Japan and then continuously worked in different productions in different Japanese animation studios, several of which are directed by Tatsuo Nagamine, who is essentially the One Piece director. And he is a close friend of Shintani. His art style was influenced by the works of Nagamine and Kazu Agora. In the productions of the One Piece film, he adopted this simple art style. I'm not a known expert of this man, but he knows how to make insanely beautiful animes. And this brings me to my next conclusion. Because when we talk about Dragon Ball, I don't think anyone ever says that it looks wonky, because this line art is out of this world and I really do enjoy the line art. Not just in Dragon Ball, but my favorite has to be Slam Dunk. The shading and art is really truly one of the best I've ever seen. The colors aren't too heavy, but the bold lines make everything pop out incredibly. The anime might look outdated because the quality of the vintage, but the looks never get old, and that's what I like about retro anime. The fine little details such as the fabric on the jerseys make the anime look more real than washy. Now that we've mentioned Slam Dunk before, it's time to talk about their latest movie, the first Slam Dunk. And this concept about this basketball manga first created by Inoue Takahiko, which is obviously the creator of Vagabond, one of the best in the seinen genre. And this movie isn't like the rest that Toei Animation produces. Toei Animation has probably produced over 50 movies, but this one in particular has done way better than the rest. And it comes with evidence. It had actually won the 46th annual Japanese Academy Film Prize. And that is exceptionally good for any anime studio. And this is because usually when anime studios produce a movie, a lot of those movies are pretty much terrible and the plot is bad because of the pacing. So anime movies really don't do that well, but this one did exceptional. See, the first Slam Dunk movie is a Japanese animated movie produced by Toei Animation and partnered with Dandelion Animation Studio. The movie was first announced on January 7, 2021, and Inoue himself served as a writer and director. Something that is kind of surprising but really amazing, because now producers can get their input by the mangaka himself that created the manga, and now they're adapting it into a movie spin-off. Finally, the movie was released and out in Japan on December 3rd, 2022. The movie follows Ryota Miyagi, the point guard of Shohaku High School's basketball team. He had an older brother, Sota, who inspired him for the love of basketball. Ryota and his classmates Hanamichi, Takanori, Hisashi, and Kade challenged the current inter-high basketball champions, Sano Kagyo High School. The movie adapts the final match depicted in the manga, while also featuring original flashbacks and a new epilogue, all centered around Ryuta. Not to get too off topic here, but I really hope one day they animate Inuo's Vagabond series, as I believe it would ultimately elevate the company. If Vagabond can be animated by Toei Animations, that would be one of the greatest things to ever happen to a studio. I don't care if they make it a 12 episodic format or a movie. Just even seeing a seinen anime get animated by Toei would be another level by itself. Now, moving back on topic, because I know Vagabond will never probably be animated, the art shift with this movie compared to the series was amazing. The movie, per usual, did hand-drawn designs but used 3D CGI animations this time around. The movie had grossed $279 million in a span of months, becoming the 6th highest grossing film in Japan and the highest grossing basketball film of all time, which I found shockingly surprising because I had not known how popular Slam Dunk truly was until that moment. The original manga and its subsequent anime adaptation in the 1990s held almost a mystical status among fans. The pressure was immense essentially to produce a movie that was able to be up to par with the 1990 anime. How could Toei stay faithful to the essence of the series while bringing something fresh to the table? The studio's first significant decision was to collaborate closely with Inoue, the manga's creator. Inoue not only served as a film director, but also took charge of the writing of the screenplay. This collaboration ensured that the film retained the heart and soul of the original series while allowing creative liberties that elevated the story. Toei's willingness to empower the creator speaks volumes about its respect for artistic vision and creates a hallmark of the studio's approach to adaptations. The decision to use CGI for action-heavy scenes was a risk, but it played off spectacularly. The camera movements were fluid and cinematic per usual, capturing the intensity and speed of the game in ways traditional animes cannot. The studio's use of motion capturing technology added another level of awesomeness. Toei meticulously studied real basketball games and players to ensure the movements were realistic, from dribbling the ball to the player's footwork and defensive stances. These innovations not only brought the game to life, but also elevated the emotional stakes, making every dunk, steal, pass, shot feel real in a sense, and it obviously paid off, which made the movie more engaging. This studio had outdone itself with amazing jobs throughout decades, rising from out of nowhere in the small streets of Japan to making our childhood, and I mean literally. Dragon Ball was a must-see and the greatest thing to ever air. It changed children's lives and till this day is still doing so. I can't speak much about Sailor Moon as I did not watch it growing up, but from what I can tell, its animation and storytelling is one of a kind that many fail to replicate. And One Piece, boy oh boy, was this a long one for Toei Animation to take on. I honestly can't even imagine how much effort it takes to make a One Piece episode because of how the standard is set so high. And that's it for the video, guys. That was the deep dive into the incredible studio. So please subscribe. I'm really getting close to getting 1,000 subscribers, and I would be very grateful if you were to subscribe. By subscribing, you're helping out my channel by pushing it out more. And you should also join the Discord down below. I'll link it in the description and make a comment about it. So please subscribe as I'm closing in on 1,000 subscribers and join the Discord. Peace out.